What's up everybody, welcome back. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Shadow Liepard in the Open Great League. Now, obviously Shadow version of Purloin was released in Pokemon Go a few months ago, and I've been wanting to showcase this Pokemon for a while now. Even though it's not very highly ranked on PvPoke, it's actually ranked around 617, the Shadow version of it. But I feel like it's actually got a pretty solid move pool, especially with Snarl as the fast move, with Dark Pulse and Play Rough as the charge moves. It's also got access to Gunk Shot and Payback. But it's extremely glassy, which is why I decided to try it out with a pretty meta core of Azumarill and Drapion, basically kind of an ABB line, so that I can give a little bit more cushion to it, right? So there's some really fun battles in here, and let's get straight into it. So moving on to the first battle here, we have Azumarill into a Defense Deoxys. Defense Deoxys honestly isn't as much of a problem for this team. Obviously, I do have to watch out for Thunderbolt in this matchup. I definitely don't want my Purloin going up against it because it's just so glassy, and counter would do so much damage, right? Even though it doesn't have stab coming from a Defense Deoxys. So charge move coming through, it's going to be a Thunderbolt here. That's fine, most Deoxys are running Thunderbolt. So I'm going to go for the Play Rough right now. They are overfarming quite a bit here. And at this point, I'm going to try and catch the next move on my Drapion. No matter what this is, it's actually absolutely fine. We can comfortably tank any one of these moves here. It is a Rock Slide. And as I said earlier as well, I mean, they farmed up quite a bit of energy, so they have back-to-back Rock Slides right now. That does quite a bit of damage, and I preferably like to preserve as many shields as possible for Purloin because it's just, like I mentioned, so glassy, and it works better with shield advantage towards endgame there. So the outcomes in Azumarill, so that tells me they probably don't have a hard counter for Drapion, so I'm able to get to the Sludge Bomb here. It does get the second shield as well, and this is perfect. This is basically sets up the game for Purloin to sweep towards the back end, right? This is absolutely perfect for me. I'm going to try and bring in Azumarill just to soak up a move here. Probably just going to be an Ice Beam right now, and if it is, we can survive and get to this Play Rough. Now what this Play Rough is going to do is it's going to put it into Play Rough range for Liepard. So immediately going to switch in my Liepard right now, and at this point I can just get to the Play Rough here. I'm definitely going to shield this up. No matter what it is, it's absolutely going to one-shot, right? And I'm just going to farm up a little bit extra and then go for the Play Rough right now. This is, again, going to do more than enough neutral damage to take out the Azumarill. And let's see what they have in the back. They have a Venusaur in the back, and this is absolutely beautiful because I'm able to get to this Dark Pulse here. Again, a stab Dark Pulse. It's just going to do so much damage. It does about 90% of Venusaur's health there. And we're able to get the Snarl through as well. And yeah, I mean, they're going to go for a move. We can shield that. And yeah, we're going to take the win there. So like I mentioned earlier as well, especially when you're going up against Pokemon that don't put as much pressure with the fast move damage, having two shields for Liepard can really benefit towards endgame there. Pretty terrible matchup in the second battle here up against Venusaur, so I immediately switch in my Drapion. Obviously Drapion being one of the best save swaps. I mean, it has been for a long time, hasn't it? So they make a switch into their Comedy. I'm able to get to the back-to-back crunch here. And I definitely do want to win switch advantage because I don't want my Azumarill to go up against the Venusaur. Obviously, Liepard doesn't have the best matchup against Venusaur, especially when you're at a shieldless advantage. But I definitely want to make sure that I come out of this matchup with a little bit of energy, right? So I go for the crunch right now. They do give up a shield as well. And at this point, I'm able to get to another crunch as well. This is going to get the second shield or basically take out this Comedy here. It actually gets the second shield. So they basically want to win switch advantage, and that's absolutely fine. I'm okay losing switch advantage because, like I said, Liepard with shield advantage is going to be able to make up for that, right? But unfortunately, I'm going to have to shield this up here. This Comedy has a lot of energy, so I do have to shield up the Sky Attack right now. And let's see what they decide to come in with. It's going to be, they actually come in with their own Azumarill. So I go for the Play Rough here. It's going to do quite a bit of damage, but the unfortunate thing here is that my screen lagged a little bit. I'm not able to get to an excellent on the Play Rough. So I'm immediately going to switch into my Azumarill to basically catch a move. Hopefully this is a Play Rough. It is a Play Rough. It's going to do quite a bit of damage, and they immediately come in with their Venusaur and fire off a move right away. So I'm glad they didn't overfarm here because they could have overfarmed and that would have been dangerous for me. But I'm going to come back with my Liepard right now. Again, overfarming just a little bit because they could be pretty close to another Frenzy Plant. So I go for the Dark Pulse here. It does quite a bit of damage. I'm able to Snarl down, and hopefully we can get to a Play Rough, and I'm barely able to get to a Play Rough here. Again, Liepard hanging on with very minimum HP, but unfortunately, because I didn't get an excellent on my previous Play Rough, Azumarill hangs on with a little bit of HP, and unfortunately we end up losing that game there. So moving on to the next one here, we have Azumarill into a Scrafty right now. This is a pretty, obviously, as good as it gets. I definitely do want to see Scrafty on the lead. You don't want to run into a Scrafty in the back here, even though Purloin is running, or I should say Liepard is running Play Rough. I mean, you're probably not even going to make it to a Play Rough, right? Especially because of the counter damage and the boosted counter damage from Power Up Punch. But this is as good a matchup as it gets. I'm surprised that they're actually staying in, which tells me that they could be double weak to Azumarill. They probably are weak to Azumarill in the back as well, right? So they decide to sack the Scrafty, which is Perfect for me. They go for the power up punch here. They are amping up those power up punches, and I'm going for the play rough right now. Surprisingly, they're also shielding as well. As you can see, they gave up their second shield there, which is really interesting. And charge move coming through from this crafty. It's going to be a power up punch once again. And at this point, I'm actually going to go for a play rough, but I'm not able to get to it, right? As you can see, the boosted counter damage, even though resisted, just does so much, right? And they're going to go for a power up punch right now, does quite a bit of damage. And as you can see, these counters are absolutely tearing through Drapion against Crafty when it gets on a bit of a roll. It's probably one of the most dangerous Pokemon to deal with. They have a Swampert in the back. I go into my Liepard here, and they have a Talonflame, and this is absolutely perfect. Unfortunately, I don't throw on correct timing. I mean, I probably should have waited one turn in order to throw that, because they ended up getting a free Incinerate through, right? They go for the Flame Charge here. I'm able to farm down, and out comes the Swampert. And at this point, we can just comfortably shield this. Like I said, when you have a 2 shield advantage, it's absolutely perfect for Liepard. And I'm able to get to this Dark Pulse here, and again, a Shadow Dark Pulse onto a Shadow Swampert is pretty much going to one-shot it. As you can see, just pretty much almost one-shots it from full health there. And that's just how dangerous it can be, right, towards endgame. So moving on to the next one here, we have a Azumarill into a Swampert here. I mean, this is a pretty decent matchup, honestly, but it's not great for my backline. I can't really switch into my Drapion, especially if they're running Sludge Wave. This can be very tricky, right? They are running Sludge Wave, so I do shield that. And at this point, I'm actually going to build up a lot of extra energy and then go for the play rough here. I'm hoping we get a shield right now, which we do. And at this point, I'm going to try and catch the next Sludge Wave on my Drapion. Even though Drapion is a pretty terrible matchup against Swampert, catching a Sludge Wave on it is definitely beneficial, right? They are still staying in. At this point, they bank a bunch of energy and then switch into their Skarmory, which is okay as well. I'm going to build up to the back-to-back crunch and then go for it here. I'm glad they didn't stay it, because they could have gone to a Hydro Cannon, and that would be in a pretty tricky situation, right? Because I would have had to give up my second shield, which is not ideal, especially when you have a Liepard in the back. But Charge Move coming through from the Skarmory, it's going to be a Sky Attack here, which is fine. They're probably worried about Drapion getting to another crunch, which is okay. So at this point, I can just come in with my Liepard here and absolutely shield this. I also have to worry about Swampert basically getting to a move. So I'm basically going to bank a Dark Pulse and then switch into my Azumarill and farm this thing all the way down. Expecting the Swampert to come back in here. And if it does, I'm actually going to go for the play rough right now. But they actually come in with their Galarian Stunfisk, so I'm going to go straight for the Hydro Pump right now. They're probably not expecting it, and Hydro Pump almost one-shots the Galarian Stunfisk there, which is absolutely beautiful. And even if they go for Earthquake, it's not going to be enough to KO. It's going to do quite a bit of damage, but I should be able to bubble down the Galarian Stunfisk, and back in comes Swampert. I go for the play rough here. I could have gone Hydro Pump as well, but I go for the play rough just to get a shield, and immediately at this point, I'm going to switch into my Liepard and go for the Dark Pulse. The Swampert had a ton of energy, but I'm able to catch them off guard there. Dark Pulse takes out the Swampert. Back in comes Galarian Stunfisk, and we're able to take it out there. It's a pretty close battle, honestly. I think we would have won CMP in any case, but Swampert definitely had a lot of energy there. Moving on to the next one here, we have Azumarill into the mirror right now. Definitely want to catch the other Azumarill on the lead. I mean, Drapion is a decent matchup against it, but yeah, I mean, I'd rather stay in here on the lead, right? So go for the play rough here. Again, it's obviously beneficial having play rough in the mirror. Charge Move coming through from the Azumarill. It's going to be another play rough. I mean, it's a good thing that we're actually winning CMP. My Azumarill obviously is not XL, so it doesn't have the best PvP IVs, which means that I'm probably going to win CMP more often than not. But anyways, I'm going to go for another play rough right now. Again, it's pretty long drawn out fight. I do have to switch out eventually, because I do need to. It is kind of an ABB line, and I need to bait out their dark counter, right? So at this point, I'm actually going to stay in here. I'm going to try and go for... They're actually going to go for the Ice Beam right now, because this is too soon to be play rough. I'm actually going to tank the Ice Beam, bank a play rough, and then switch in my Drapion and completely farm this thing down. They actually make a switch in their defense Deoxys, which is by no stretch of imagination a counter to a Drapion. They probably misclicked there, but I'm able to get to the back-to-back crunch as well. This is again going to do massive, super effective damage. They pretty much decided to sack the defense Deoxys. I think they misclicked that. But they have a Noctowl in the back, and this is perfect for me, because Drapion again is going to be able to put in so much work, right? I still have a Liepard in the back, and we have a play rough on the Azumarill as well. Charge Move coming through, we're going to comfortably let this go through. It is going to be a Sky Attack. I can just basically come in with my Liepard right now, and then I can go for the Dark Pulse here. They still have only one shield left, so I'm definitely going to shield this up, and then build up to the back-to-back Dark Pulses. I am worried about them trying to switch out. As you can see, they try to catch a move on the Azumarill, and I tried to go for the Dark Pulse just before. I was trying to farm down, but I knew I couldn't, but I was unfortunately slightly slow to click. But luckily I don't click. I'm able to shield and farm down, and I have back-to-back Dark Pulses. I go for the first Dark Pulse here, and at this point I'm going to go for the second Dark Pulse again. It's going to do so much damage. It's not going to one-shot because Noctowl is pretty tanky, but at this point I can just immediately switch in my Azumarill, and we have a play rough banked and ready to go. and that's going to be taking out the Noctowl from that range there. So again, these were some best battles from the couple of sets that I did. But anyways, as you can see, again, not the best Pokemon to go in with, but definitely a lot of fun to use, especially in some of these early rank, like I mentioned as well. I'm still probably playing like a couple of sets every week. So I'm still slowly progressing my way through to hopefully Ace and Veteran later on in the season. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.